And let's kick it over to our man, and Henry's going to start us off.
Great job on that one, guys. For everyone, that was a fun one. I knew out of everyone, that was my least one, and the fact that I didn't do super bad, it was like, oh, good job. All right.
1 minute, whenever you're ready, Henry.
So when you think of the Scream franchise, you got to think of tonality. What would match up with this? And I figured best of a horror comedy that still does a good job of doing the horror slasher aspect of it. And I went with Happy Death Day because Happy Death Day has proven that you can do the repeating day narrative and still have both a thrilling story, but also, have a lot of fun with it. I feel like Scream would do a great job crossing over with that. Instead of doing the babyface killer, you have a ghostface killer, and it's one of those things where you can kind of do a crossover of like, are they working together? Are they teaming up? And are they working together to kill someone? Are you bringing Sydney this? Are you bringing someone else into this? Are you one of those things where is it the babyface killer is a killer, and now there's a ghostface person who's kind of mad that someone keeps doing it, and now that brings them out of hiding. You always want to have a reason of why are you surfacing a new ghostface killer, and intertwining it with the Happy Death Day would both be fun thematically, but also would make a lot of sense just why you would do it narratively. And I feel like the two would just be a great job, both with tone, but also with the complete vibe, and have a lot of fun to having Ghostface just kill over and over.
And time. Next person to pitch their crossover, Mr. Steve Mason.
So I agree with Henry that in order for a franchise crossover that should work is to have franchises that are of the tone. While Happy Death Day is of a fantasy tone, I do have another one that's also in that same realm. I going with the Reanimator franchise because this also gives you a reason to bring back people who have died in the franchise and give them new life. Literally have Dr. Herbert West resurrect characters dead, and to either to come up with a scheme or to be hired to resurrect some of the dead people to become more of a ghost filler type cult to make the status of the ghost face icon more legendary, that like, God, we can even bring the dead back to life and bring back all these killers.
Third pitch is going to come from JPO.
And you're muted, just so you know.
I'm aware. I was getting there. But thank you. So a lot of my opponents here decided to go kind of fantastical with this question here, which I obviously understand why you maybe want to lean towards that. The thing I went to in my heart here is I don't want to necessarily rewrite what we already love about this franchise. The thing that I love about this franchise is, unlike a Jason, a Freddy, a Michael Myers that all have fantastical elements to them already, this is grounded to a degree in reality here. Scream can happen to any one of us. It's about people going mad, people mad because of the past, and killing one another with knives and guns. It could happen. So I actually just stuck with something in the realm here. I went with Prom Night. We've seen already kind of, temptations of making, Scream younger here. You could, again, have ways to have the legacy cast in here. If you want Sydney back, here's my pitch. Let's do Prom Night where Sydney and her daughter are at prom and she's a chaperone and shit starts to go down. And you have a way to bring in legacy cast members as well as start something new here. Bring in some fresh faces. You can go for the younger crowd here. Definitely keep it R-rated here. And again, you're not pissing off any of the fan base by going way too crazy.
Last pitch is going to come from Chad.
I actually agree with a lot of what JPO just said. I also don't want to see it the franchise go in a fantastical way. I want to keep it grounded, and that's what I'm going to do with my pick. I picked the Saw franchise. I think the Saw franchise is getting very stale. They keep trying to reboot this thing over and over and over and failing every time. There's a new one coming out this year, and I think what Scream could do for the Saw franchise is help it have better writing, become more fresh and stuff like that. But then what Scream can gain from the Saw franchise is to actually get a new take, a new story. Because right now they're just kind of like remaking a lot of the older ones. What they could do is just go in a really cool direction by going having specific commentary on a specific kind of horror genre, and you can go like with the whole torture porn, gory guts, all that stuff, and really you can just have this killer be a huge fan of Jigsaw in the movies because I'll I'll dive in later.
Yeah. We're going to get into our 1 minute round robin building round. We're going to go back to Henry for his first of 2 minutes. Whenever you're ready, Henry.
So the issue with the Saw franchise is like Chad said, that it's pretty terrible, and it's one of those things where it's hokey and wacky, but not in a comedic fashion, but just in kind of what we got. And like you said, it's based on the torture porn, and that's unfortunately what we don't want in a Scream franchise. Even if like thematically and narratively, you could say it's repetitive and over again. At the end of the day, the heart of it is a slasher film, and we're just not going to get that with a Saw crossover. Everything with Prom Night, it's one of those things that whether you're doing a day in the life over and over again, like Happy Death Day, or you're just kind of going all that. The whole part of the legacy is we want to move on from that. So we don't want Sydney. Obviously, Scream 6 didn't want her because it's tired, and spoilers for that movie, you didn't need her, and just shows that you don't really need that for that type of franchise. And at the end of the day, if you did a Prom Night type of deal, it's kind of secluded in one area, and the whole point of the Scream franchise is a whodunit. You're not really going to get that if it's kind of secluded to one area. Reanimator, everything that you're bringing back of all these characters and all that stuff. It's one of those things where at the end of the day, good. Instead of writing new stuff, we're just bringing back old characters, and that's real tiring. That's not what we want.
Steve, you're up for your first minute.
All right, there's been arguments about, people, Dewey didn't get the proper send up, or Tatum got dealed raw in being in the doggy door. Now, this is the part where, I'm already doing a pitch. This is like Scream 7.5 at this point. So I'm already pitching a new movie coming out. Scream 8, fuck it. Why not? So you have the fact that you have somebody hiring these killers. Somebody hired Dr. Herbert West to resurrect these killers to become something more of a legendary Ghostface cult. But in the end, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get the victims coming back to life. Hell, you're going to have Dewey and Tatum being a hell of a tag team and taking down their killers, taking down Billy and Stu Loomis, the dead versions of them. I mean, and then you're going to have eventually Gale come up to Dewey and have the perfect reunion and the final goodbye before he goes to the long hereafter. I mean, what's perfect? What's not perfect about that, guys? Come on, Reanimators, Scream, do it.
JPO, your first minute.
Good pitch for Ghostbusters. I mean, Reanimator. First of all, you are killing every emotional, death that we ever got. Really, bring back Dewey. I mean, come on, man. Like, you're really going lowest common denominator here to try to maybe get butts in seats, and the butts are already in seats here. You're taking away from every kind of emotion we've had. Chad with Saw. It's one of the most played out franchises here that has tried rebooting itself. People don't even like that franchise anymore, let alone ruining our franchise here. Again, I think all these choices are they're going to annoy fans here. We're a slasher. We're a whodunit. We got characters. We got a script here. And then there's the opposite of the Saw franchise here. You mentioned Happy Death Day again. Like, let them do their own little genre here. You know what I mean? It's very PG-13. It's very cutesy. Again, it's not what we really want from our horror franchise here. Prom Night, you mentioned, could be one location. It's Prom Night. Doesn't mean they have to stay at the school the entire time here. Guess what Prom Night ends up being? At the house party. We love a good house party in Scream. Party at my house, y'all. None of you assholes.
Chad.
Look, I know what you're used to what Saw has become, but go back to the early days of Saw when we used to love this franchise. Saw was a whodunit. Saw was a game that people loved to go to the theater every single year to see, like, who's going to be, the killer this time? Is it Jigsaw? Is it someone else? That reveal at the end of the first Saw was incredible. That's exactly what we can do with Scream to keep it fresh and have a game played out with all the rest of the characters. And that's what I'm envisioning with this. The killer would be so obsessed. Obviously Saw is already in the franchise, so we would have this be outside of the actual franchise, and we would have Tobin Bell come in and have his cameo and stuff like that. That could be really fun. But yeah, look, I do not want Mesa in charge of the Scream franchise right now. I know he loves Scream, but he's going to ruin it with bringing in zombies. Henry's going to ruin it with bringing in time travel. We do not want to go back in time and raising people from the dead and doing all this crazy shit with Scream. Let's keep it grounded.
Time. Back over to Henry for his second minute.
So the reason that Happy Death Day would work is because Christopher Landon is a great director who showcased that you can have a PG-13 horror movie and it worked, but he's also showcased that he can handle a slasher that we got in Freaky. So if we're given the reins to Christopher Landon, or if it's Radio Silence, Christopher Landon crossover, they showcase that they would be able to handle it and they would be able to vibe both with the comedy. Imagine a Ready or Not style fun version of a Scream. It's exactly what we would get from Scream. So it makes sense that you would have that with Christopher Landon's Freaky and the Happy Death Day movies. Tonality, they would not clash. Like I said, everything was Saw. The whole point of it is a slasher whodunit, and you just don't have that with Saw. Like I said, similar to Prom Night, Saw, the best movies of that are kind of built in one location, whether it's the first one in the bathroom, the second one in the warehouse, or there's really no other good ones in the entire franchise. And everything we get Reanimator. Unfortunately, zombies is where franchises or entities go to die, because unless you're trying to do something essentially that is Dawn of the Dead or whatever, then you don't really have any other ideas outside of that. Look at Army of the Dead. It just didn't work when you try to be big with zombies.
Back over to Steve.
Sorry, I took a sip.
The problem with having Saw being mixed in with Scream, then you're gonna have Scream be associated with terror, which is a horrible franchise. Prom Night itself was trying to be a franchise, started to be number one. Then number two is Hello Mary Lou, and then you had the remake. Just didn't work at all. Happy Death Day is trying, it's PG-13. Its PG-13 rating is just limiting all of Scream's potential. Now you have Scream 8. I'm already calling it Scream 8 at this point. And we already have you Ball with the Ball by Kid Rock. You have all these victims come back and just kill the shit out of their killers. And you don't just go ball out. This is probably Scream 8 is going to be the most brutal. They say Scream 6 is some of the most brutal Scream franchise of all time. Scream 8 is going to be the most brutal because you have zombies, head decapitation, head slicing, torso tossing, head blood blowing up. This is going to be the most gore gouging Scream movie you will ever see in your life. And this is just happening in my head. Check it out. Coming soon, 2050.
Ed's JPO.
2050. What took so long to get your thing greenlit? Oh, I know, because it's a horrible idea. That's why it took so long to get greenlit. Here's the problem with everyone's choices except for mine. You can't come back from these choices here. The one I picked is the one that you could have an experimental film with here. If it works, great. If it doesn't, you can still do exactly whatever you wanted to do with the franchise here. Here, you're literally coming to a pit stop with all of your choices here. Now we got zombies. Now we got time travel. That's not what Scream is. We don't want it as fans. Let's stick to what so far has been, everyone agrees here, a franchise that is maybe the number one franchise in overall quality here. If everyone here wants to do something completely different here and rewrite the book here. Saw, it's not a whodunit, Chad. What are you crazy? The first one, maybe. Everything else is either Jigsaw or an accomplice we don't give a shit about. Reanimator, we don't want zombies. I know who did last summer. Their last film actually went zombie territory and is known as one of the worst sequels of all time. We don't want that. We don't want a PG-13. Christopher Landon, he had a good track record until a month ago when he made We Have a Ghost, which was not very well received and shows that he does have missteps. And just like your choice, boom.
Chat.
Just getting on with it.
All I'm just hearing right now is Saw is a terrible franchise. It's not a whodunit. It's not slasher. It's not Scream. But honestly, it is just a different type of slasher. Scream is the prime franchise to reinvent itself and do something different. You can totally come back from Saw. I'm just pitching like kind of one movie here. It's just one killer who's really obsessed with Jigsaw. And I think that could be like what we do down the line. I'm not even saying the next movie, but something we can do that would be commentary on just different types of horror genres. And I think that's exactly what we need to do. Not bring in supernatural zombies, not bring in time travel, and not even go like, Prom Night, because honestly, that just, like everyone's saying, sounds exactly like the first Scream, just like maybe more in a school. And I don't even know if we should bring Sydney back, like JPO is pitching that, that doesn't really sound like a great idea either, to be honest. So yeah, Saw just seems like the most fresh thing, and it's going to help both franchises. And yeah, I think that's why it should be
time. Let's go over to some closing arguments, starting with the questions author, Henry Confidential. Whenever you're ready, Henry.
So if you actually think of the Saw franchise, a better crossover of that franchise would either be the Hostel films or the collector/collection films, because that kind of fits tonality of what you got. Everything you get from Prom Night, if you want to do a crossover, it's more of like what you said earlier of I Know What You Did Last Summer, because it's more within that high school college setting, and you can actually be more stable with that. Everything, whatever crossover you want from Reanimator, you don't. So everything that's why that I'm glad you brought up the We Had a Ghost or whatever, because it showcased when Christopher Landon doesn't do a slasher film and doesn't do this type of film, it just doesn't work. So it shows the crossover that we would have with Christopher Landon and Radio Silence of the Scream franchise. It would work. And the whole point of a time loop movie, that of why you stop the loop, is because you're resolving an issue. And that's the whole point of why is this Ghostface killer / babyface killer killing them. You can finally set that resolve. And the whole point of the Scream franchise, it's connected, and it has that, whether it's a boyfriend, whether it's someone who's messed with your mom, whether it's your long lost brother, whether it's your boyfriend, whether it's the creator of Stab 8. It's one of those things that if you have something that's detrimental, you solve that issue and then you resolve the time loop.
Time. Steve, your closing argument.
Jordan was arguing that there's the emotions are being taken away. No, the emotions are being given back, Jordan. You have a reunion of sister and brother. You have the reunion of husband and wife. And Henry is talking about Dawn of the Dead. Yes, this is what I'm aiming for. I am aiming for the Scream version of Dawn of the Dead. This is what I want to watch. I love zombies, and this is what I watch. I want to see Scream with zombies. You already have a Scream itself just criticizing the shit out of torture porn in Scream 4. You had Prom Night being criticized in Scream 1 and Happy Death Day. I'm sure if they recognize it, hell, they didn't even recognize it in Scream 6 for it to even be name dropped. What does that say about any of those franchises?
Okay. JPO, your closing argument.
Hello there. Happy Death Day, those are fine movies. The second one's not even a slasher at all. He tried to go too whimsical with it, and it was lesser returns from the first one here. We don't want to see a PG-13ified movie. That right away is going to piss off people here. Reanimator here, again, no, man. You don't want to shoehorn it away. See, the difference between mine and yours, Steve, is that mine finds an organic way to maybe bring back a cast member, whether it's Sydney or it's somebody else who happens to be a teacher or a chaperone. Maybe it's their uncle. You can point fingers at the teachers, have fun, have a grand scope. A school's a pretty big fucking place. There's a pool. There's sporting. You go outside of the school afterwards at the house party. A lot you can have fun with mine, and it's organic to the franchise here, unlike everything else, including Saw here. We don't want just a thing where people are sitting in a chair getting tortured. We've seen that here from Saw and Hostel trying to escape. We've seen that. We don't want that here. We don't want just the gore. We want the characters with the gore here and the whodunit, and that's what Saw offers. None of these other crazy, fantastical ideas. Mine, you can do an organic story here. You can bring back the characters in a non-shoehorned way. It could be several films from now, and you can do whatever movie you want afterwards without hurting the legacy.
Time. Chad, your final argument.
You're saying Saw doesn't have the tone. Saw just has the trap. Saw doesn't have the characters. I understand. I'm saying this is a Scream movie that is crossing over with Saw. We're still got a Scream movie. It's still going to be whodunit. It's still going to be fun, a slasher, just a lot of stuff, a lot of great characters. We already have built-in characters that we can have with this. I'm just talking about one movie, one character who's really obsessed with Jigsaw. Scream is the franchise that commentates on different styles of horror, different genres of horror. And this is exactly one franchise. Like you guys mentioned Hostel and all this stuff. That's exactly what they would be commentating on as all those other ones, but mainly Saw is because he's so obsessed with Jigsaw. And that's kind of the name of the torture porn thing. And that's exactly what it commentate on. Mesa, you want zombies? Go watch a zombie movie. Henry, it's just not going to work with the time travel. I'm sorry. And JPO's is just kind of boring. And it's
time. All right. That's what we got in this one. Judges, get your scorecards out. Write your
For the record, this one was awesome. And as the writer of this, I'm glad that this went the way it did. This was a fun one.
This is the toughest one yet.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Can I just give them all the same score?
I don't think that works.
He averages them out anyway. Oh.
All right. Let me know when you guys are locked in.
All right, I'm in.
Okay.
All right. I'll go first this time, seeing as I let you guys each go first the last few times. So let's see. Starting in fourth place, again, I have Steven fourth, but he is creeping up every round. He's improving. I am intrigued by the idea of Reanimator, but again, it kind of all goes back to the one point that you're going to hear me repeating all the time, where like it is like JPO said, once you do zombies become canon. And you cannot go back from zombies. So I got Steve at fourth with 6.5. After that, I have Henry in third, 7.5. Again, it is introducing something to the canon. It's introducing time travel to the canon. It's a bell you can't unring. I think that would be very entertaining. I would still watch that movie. I think Christopher Landon would do a great job. But it would be, unless you're doing like a multiverse type thing, it would basically take Scream someplace you can't go back to. Which leaves us with Chad and JPO, who do introduce things that you could essentially undo. I have Chad in second, 8 out of 10. I think the concept of a killer copycatting Saw within the Scream franchise is actually, something I probably would like to see. However, JPO in first with 9 out of 10. Prom Night is a very organic way to go about. It's basically just Scream in a different setting. That's basically it. So it's a very organic, simple way to do it. I think, again, it was a simple viewpoint to defend, and JPO did a good job. So JPO wins this round for me. Teo.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with you on in that the last one was kind of a rock, paper, scissors. This one was kind of a 2v2 in the fantasy versus the realistic, and I favored the realistic in this one. That said, Steve did get fourth place again. But I gave him 6 points this time around. I liked the fun that he had with it when he, we're kicking him ba to ba. He knows what he was doing with that argument. So I had a good time with it too. Henry bumps up to 7 with Happy Death Day. I liked his argument about the tone, like the reasoning why it would work, and like how the director does have that range and stuff like that. But I still went 7.5 to Chad in second place. I'm sorry, I can't read my own handwriting. I like the way he pitched the crossover. That it could freshen up both franchises. I like the idea of his pitch that it's a fan obsessed with Saw as opposed to with a Scream type situation. So his made a lot of sense to me. But JPO comes in with 8 points, just to show how tight booty this one really was. But what really did it for Jordan was like somewhere at the back end of his second round when he just started spitting venom all across the other three, while also defending like, hey, you can't come back from that. And like, the legacy of Scream could easily be maintained with a Prom Night. So JPO for me there at 8.
And Jacob, what do you got?
I'm just gonna echo everything that you guys said. I have the exact same order. I had Steve and Henry kind of neck and neck, but once thinking back, Steve did mention Kid Rock, so that's why I bumped him down to fourth.
Yeah.
At least it was a good Kid Rock song, but I mean, still, you mentioned Kid Rock. So it was really close. I liked Steve's how much fun he was having, and to be honest, I would watch any 4 of these movies. I've got Steve at a 7.5, Henry at an 8 for much of the same reasons you guys said. I have Chad at 8.5 and JPO at 9.
All right, there you have it. We're gonna send it back to our tabulators and get you the final result briefly.
Math.
Another easy one, just because JPO was first for all of them, so he just had the score. So yeah, just so you know, you had the point.
Okay. And in this round, we're gonna have JPO getting his first point of the contest. We're 3-way tie for first right now. So let's go on to question number 4, submitted by JPO, and the question is, JPO's had a trend this entire thing of emotional things and things that pull on your heartstrings, and there's great characters in this series, and unfortunately we have to say goodbye to a lot of them. So if you could rewrite the narrative, which character that got killed would you have let survive for at least one more movie or more?